This is where the fun begins.
Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
King Kong ain't got shit on me!
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Say my name.
And here we go.
Welcome back, humans of the universe. Grab your snacks, get the popcorn ready. It's about to get realish, and it's an honor to be joined by my brothers in arms once again. On my left, we have the podfather himself, Derrick Myers. Beneath me, but never beneath me in the pecking order. The brain, the brain orchestrator of this very show, my guy, Matthew T. Matt Tirado. How's it going, guys?
Oh, it's going amazing.
Yes, sir.
It's
yes, sir.
great to be back.
Yes, sir.
You can't be bad with some intros like that, right? Shit. I love hyping my guys up off the top, and god damn it, my guy Derrick looks like he's about to take us back to Flash Dance. We're going straight onto the dance floor with this episode, and it's a pleasure once again, like you said, to get our feet wet. So we have business to attend to, right? We're going to be talking about the phenomena that has taken this nation by storm for the last 20 years, that is reality TV, and some of our favorite reality TV shows that we partake in, whether they're guilty pleasures or not. But then our favorite part, we're going to get into our feature presentation for the show, where we're going to be reviewing Spaceman off of Netflix. See what I did there, right? We start out humans of the universe, and we end up in space, man. God, it all connects. But as these guys said, it's amazing to be back. But before we get into our discussion on reality TV, why don't we just let the people know where they can find us? I'll start. You can find me at Negrong MMA on Twitter as well as TikTok. And you could also find me at ChrisNegrong _ on Instagram. Look out for all things sports related and MMA content. Been really looking forward to diving back into content creation, my love, in 2024. So keep an eye out for that. And of course, make sure that you're following the brand at OTS Media Co. on all social media platforms, OTS Media on YouTube. But just like that, Matt, why don't you tell the people where they can find you?
Yes, sir. You can find me over on Instagram at _T29. And I haven't told Derrick this yet. I haven't even told Chris yet. But I think I'm gonna be making a push to Facebook at some point. I know that's something Derrick has been clamoring for a little bit. Wanted me to join the OTS family on there. So gonna maybe be making that account sooner rather than later. So be on the lookout.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Chris is, just one down, one to go. Come on over to the dark side, bro.
I'm in the process of getting my password back. This has been a month-long process, but once I'm in, trust me, we'll be in. But Derrick, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can follow me at Derrick _OTS. That's DERRICK, the black way to spell it.
Yes, sir. Keeps it short and sweet. And God damn it, I can't ever get that out of my head because it's the only way I can think of your name now. But I thought we'd have some fun because obviously Love is Blind is rolling out some of their latest episodes here. And I was like, I just want to talk to the guys about reality TV, okay? I'm going to be honest. I'm framing this discussion with my own opinion here. So I would love to hear how you guys feel about reality TV as a blanket and where it has fallen in your television watching experience throughout the last years. But I noticed that there's nothing that gives me quite the thrill like making my girlfriend happy, right? There's times where, I want to watch something that really gets my brain going. I want to watch something that really makes me cinematically feel something. And when I'm watching reality TV show with my girl, I promise you guys, there is none of that. If anything, there's a lot of annoyance, right? With like flagrant filmmaking practices, right? That is very blatantly exploitative. I'm looking at you, uh, any show for having an open bar. I'm just saying. But Love is Blind has been something that has I don't want to admit it, but has really taken over my life the last 3 seasons, right? Whenever it comes out, this is obviously it's big in just general discussions, right? Around the office, whatever the case may be. But me and my girlfriend are locked in, right? We know the days that these extra episodes drop, we're watching these the content as soon as it comes out. Like it is bad. It is clearly one of our addictions. And what keeps me coming back at least is the first part, right? I tell my girlfriend all the time, I'm like, if it weren't for you, I would not watch this. Like I would genuinely not watch this. But while I'm with you watching it, I fucking enjoy it. Even though it's something that I like to feel that maybe I'm above, right? But when it comes down to Love is Blind, the premise of the show for those who's never watched it is basically they put 20 plus men and women in this house or living quarters. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but from there they meet all of the other gender participants in hopes of dating all of these people in order to find sight unseen the person that they will be marrying at the end of the show. Um, so obviously a lot of interworkings when it comes to figuring out who's going to be a match, et cetera, et cetera. And then eventually, like all reality TV, it kind of centers around the drama, right? So this has been a long introduction to say, God damn it, I don't like to admit how much I love watching this fucking show, but it is so dramatic and all the parts of reality TV that kind of makes you roll your eyes and suck your teeth. I think this show does really well in order to keep people engaged, and the amount of traction this show has got with spin-offs in different countries and different languages, I think really shows the kind of resonance it has with the community. So I'm just curious, do you have any Love is Blind experiences yourselves or any other reality shows that you're really excited about? And what has reality TV meant to you guys?
Matt, you got it, bro.
Yeah, I don't mean this in like a condescending way, but like I don't care about like other people's lives. Like I don't. I think like and like I and let me like elaborate. I don't mean in like a narcissistic way. Like obviously I care about like other people, but like I think there are certain things that should be kept private. You know what I mean? And like I feel like reality TV show is like the epitome of like fake because you really don't know what kinds of relationships or what kinds of connections are actually authentic versus what's being scripted to be purposely dramatic so they can drag it out for multiple episodes or multiple seasons. Like I just think reality TV is like I said, like certain things like should be kept private and I just don't feel like I'm like why should I care about like what others want to do in their relationship. Like that's like you know what I mean. I feel like we should be focusing on those in our own personal lives and focus on ourselves because then it becomes this whole thing where like if one person makes a decision, then people go on social media and judge them for that decision, and it's like you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Like we don't know them personally. Like why should we get attached to people who we're literally never going to meet in our lives? And then to commit to it. Like I just, you know what I mean? Like I said, I don't mean to sound like condescending way. I just never understood that concept of reality TV and why it's become like so ingrained in our culture. Cause like it's just a really like weird thing. Like I don't know, you know what I mean? But
Before I'm even in a position to cut you off, Derek, I just want to start by
Go ahead.
saying
Go ahead.
I love your perspective on this because I do agree with you. Like I feel like genuinely I typically feel this way. Um, but for me, I guess what has made the difference is like when you're able to share in something with someone. I know this might sound so silly, but like when you're able to share that enthusiasm with someone, it kind of changes your perspective for it. And there'll be times
sure.
when I'm watching it where I fully agree with you. Like this shit is so fake. And I'll even be telling her, like, as we're watching it, like, yo, there's no way this shit was real. Or like you said, they'll manufacture a moment, they'll take stuff out of context in order to create a moment. There's a whole bunch of that. Don't get me wrong. Emotional manipulation, right, is the key for these
Yeah.
reality shows. But my question, Matt, before we move on to how Derrick feels about this, have you ever watched a reality show you have liked, for example, Survivor or something else, right? That is different than a show like I mentioned, or is it just reality TV in general, just never to keep it away from you?
I just think reality TV in general has just been like I avoided like the plague, you know what I mean? Like the only like I guess like real life stuff that I've enjoyed is like documentaries because I feel like things like that you can't fake, right? That there's a whole process and you know interviewing people, actually collecting footage depending on what it is you're filming, right? And I think documentaries have a lot to offer in terms of presenting themes or presenting events or presenting people who we as a society perhaps haven't recognized and they therefore deserve that recognition. You know what I mean? So I feel like, or, documentaries are often, a chance to really discuss, controversial issues or very, at times disturbing issues to reflect that the world we live in isn't all, like, sunshine and rainbows, that there is a darker side to humanity or a darker side to the world as a whole. Reality TV doesn't do any of that. It's just, in my opinion, right? Like this is honestly coming from someone who hasn't like, committed to a reality TV show from season one to, you know, 5 or 6, right? But I just think that like the the notion behind it has just been so unappealing to me. But to your perspective, Chris, and you bring up an interesting point, when you are sharing that experience with somebody and you sort of, you know, remove that bias for those moments, then your enjoyment is significantly better because you're going into it just saying, all right, this is like not like an ordinary movie or TV show. Like you're consciously knowing that. And so therefore, like your enjoyment is going to be significant. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to rate it like a, you know, like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul or anything like that. You're just watching it because hey, you know what? You take a few minutes and you get a chance to see some like drama happen between people. But I don't know. I just think the whole like manufacture element behind it, where you could definitely tell elements are scripted or the producers are definitely doing very sketchy things behind the scenes so that contestants are at odds with each other. I just like I said, I just never agree with that. And obviously I know that the actors and actresses like obviously sign all these, I imagine probably it's all these like confidential agreements obviously to you know basically say, hey, like you're going to be filmed 24/7 and we have the rights to essentially, publish what we want to the world. But I also don't think it's right for them to just publish anything. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I just think that like I think people are too vulnerable with their like reality TV show. Like so like again, like some things like, when it's taken out of context and you don't get the full picture, it's very easy to judge someone based solely on that. You know what I mean? I mean, unless something a person does or says is like egregious, then there's really no like defending what it is they did. But anyways, I guess we'll jump over to Derek because I feel like I went on another Matthew rant for today's
I
episode.
love it.
So
The ethical side of reality TV, right? The ethics that is wrong with reality. I fucking love it. And once again, it is a perspective that is much needed. Derek, it's time to fucking nerd out about Love Is Blind, bro. Matt, I don't know what you got. You can mute your headphones. I don't know, but
Yo, real talk though. I can't lie. I have watched Love Is Blind multiple times. I actually had a friend that was on the show, um, 3 seasons ago, I think. Okay, so I actually think reality TV is the modern day version of soap operas. So yeah, it's scripted. It's not a real thing. Um, but it's that guilty pleasure that our parents' generation loved with soap operas. It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. Is you just don't have it on like horrible sets. You know what I'm saying? You don't have it on um 32 seasons type. They're not going that long, but like it's the same thing. It's just this generation's version of it. I actually enjoy reality TV from time to time. It's not something that I watch all the time, but I used to actually. My sister actually got me into it years ago. I don't really know how. but we used to watch TV all the time when we lived at our parents' house. So one day I think Love and Hip Hop Atlanta was on, and I just I didn't feel like going upstairs, so I just sat downstairs and ate dinner and watched it with her, and then I was glued. I was glued to it. I wanted to watch it. I like she didn't have to drag me to watch it. I actually wanted to watch it, so I can admit that. But then it got to a point where I just couldn't watch it anymore. It was I watched maybe a few seasons of it and I think something else, but I didn't get into it like that too much. I just watched like one show. Love and Hip Hop Atlanta was if you haven't watched that, that mess is hilarious. It's just funny. It's just funny. But I almost feel like it's Atlanta is if you've never been, Atlanta is like Grand Theft Auto in real life. And all they did was turn that into a reality show. So it's kind of like it was just entertaining. Um I have watched Love is Blind. Um my fiance and I have watched well, I think last season or something like that. Last season or season prior to, they started coming out with seasons more frequently than when they first started the show out. So I can't even remember what season they're on right now. I have not watched this current season yet. I think I might get into it pretty soon, just to see what the hype has been about. Because I've been seeing a lot about talk about it on Twitter. I'll never call it X, it's Twitter. But I think um I think it's a guilty pleasure type thing, right? Like everybody's got their thing. Um, it's not cinematically the best thing you'll ever see. But I think sometimes people just need that break from their own lives to get into seeing what's going on with other people, even if it's scripted. It doesn't have to even be a real thing. I actually shot two two reality shows um that never saw the day of a light of day. But I think it was like the pilot episode for two different ones. And yeah, the producer was setting it up the whole time. Hey, you're gonna walk in and XYZ is gonna end up happening. And you're talking about people that are best friends, right? Like they're saying, hey, this is the argument that's gonna end up happening. We're gonna shoot this this confessional type thing, whatever, and we'll be done for the day. And I think when I got onto those projects, that when I saw it for myself how this is actually done, I was actually relieved but disappointed at the same time, because it's like sometimes you don't want to see the behind the scenes things because it kind of like ruins the magic of what you're seeing. Like I remember seeing behind the scenes for the first time of how certain movies are made. Matrix Reloaded. I saw the behind the scenes for that one. And I was devastated. Like, oh, they're not rigging these actors on the side of the building and suspending them over, type of thing. They're actually just on a green screen. Why would they do it like that? But it was intriguing. Like when you get to see how things are done, it's an intriguing perspective to have. So yeah, I don't think a lot of these things are real. Now, my friend that was on Love's Blind was Ayana McNeely. I'm not sure if you remember her, Chris, but she was a little short, petite woman that was this was back when they were in Chicago, and she was married to a guy named Jarrett. I still haven't spoken to her about her whole experience since, but I knew she when she was actually going onto the show, and how that whole process went. And I think some elements are real, but a lot of it is scripted. Like it is what it is, and it is a guilty pleasure. But I think there are a lot more men that are watching this that would actually be ready to admit that they actually watch it. One of my coworkers, her cousin was on one of these reality shows. I forgot which one it was, but um, yeah, a lot of people just do it just so they can get their social media to blow up, right? And they have their 15 minutes of fame, and we move on to the next. It like the fire that's behind these people. It only burns for 3-5 months. And once the new season comes out, they're really forgotten unless they do something with that, right? So I don't know anything about like the Bachelorette and Bachelor and all that, those other shows, but from what I've seen, this is what takes place with them, and I mean it's cool. But yeah, Matt, I have a feeling at some point you're gonna be getting into reality shows because you're gonna meet somebody that's gonna want to watch that, and you're gonna have no choice but to watch it. Your brother is watching Love Is Blind right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And I was gonna say too, like, it's not just the corny stuff like that. I mean, I know that's the one I led with because I legitimately thought you were caught up too, and we was about to go ham on this. But um, in general, there's a lot of different. There's like levels to reality TV too, right? Like there's like the game
Hmm.
show side of things, which I'm
Yes,
sure there's
yes.
still a lot of fake shit in that too. Don't get me
Oh
wrong.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but it's a different kind of thing. And then there's the competition element of things as well. Like for example, um, why did I just? I'm watching the show's intro in my head right now.
Wipeout?
Ink Master. Um,
Oh
which
yes,
is that show where
yes.
basically it's a whole bunch of tattoo artists and they compete every week with different challenges and things like that. Forged in Fire is another really good one that's on Netflix. My brother-in-law put me onto that one, and it's actually a bunch of blacksmiths, and they create
Hmm.
weapons for this specific challenge for the week or whatever the case may be. That stuff might be a little bit more in Matt's wheelhouse, right? But I think overall the lesson is ultimately like reality TV is like banquet food, right? Like you're gonna see it there, and it's gonna be like, hey, like this is presented well, right? Like it looks
Hmm.
nice,
Yeah,
it tastes all right, right? Like
yeah.
it, but it's gonna keep coming all night, right? Like you have that
Pause.
perspective of like overindulgence. No pause. Um, but ultimately, I do agree that this isn't like in general. I 100% agree with you, Matt. And even like the first reality shows I watched, I remember when you were talking about your experiences, Derek. I was thinking back. I was like, what is the first one that I could remember? And it was I Love New York, which was like a
Mm.
spin-off of the Flavor Flav show. Which,
Yes,
if
yes,
we are
yes,
looking back, that shit was 1,000% fake. Respectful,
yes.
all respect to my man's Flavor
Yeah,
Flav, but ain't no way nobody's trying to vie for his love. So
Yeah.
yeah.
all of this stuff is overly dramatic, and I do agree that to a certain extent it's like, why the fuck would I ever care or be interested to hear about these people just literally selling themselves, because that's what it is. um and you see it now too, like even in Love Is Blind, a lot of this stuff I was telling my girl is like, you could just tell how much these people just want to be famous. Like that is their goal. They don't even
Hmm.
care who they end up with, as long as they with somebody at the end, because then they're going to be on the show longer, right? So it's like
Yeah.
the ulterior motives are at all-time high. And speaking of that, if I'm not mistaken, the person that Ayana got engaged to has already signed up for the next season of Love Is Blind, which is prior contestants coming back on the show to like
That's hilarious.
see if they get a part two. So yeah,
Yeah.
um,
I think
the validity of all this is probably negative 1,000. Like
it's-
all of this is probably just bullshit. Um, but it can be entertaining. Go ahead,
yeah.
Matt. Take us
No,
home.
I think I think this like to summarize, like I it's never my business until people make it my business. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And I
Yep.
feel like watching reality TV make like is like I don't know how to explain, like gives me the ick. Cause it's like I'm like watching people and it's like I feel like I'm invading in their business. I'm invading in their privacy. You know what I mean? Like it's just like a really like weird, awkward feeling that I would get or that I have gotten like just watching even like brief clips from reality shows. You know what I mean? Um, and I think really too, the concern with it, and I think both of you brought it up, is the worst kinds of people can get a platform. You know what I mean? And as a result of that, they end up becoming these very like they become well known for the wrong reasons, but then they're given
Hmm.
all of this clout and all this attention when there are far better people who are deserving of, again, that sort of recognition or that sort of you know, acknowledgement, we'll say. You know what I mean? So Like I said, and for the record, no knock at anybody who loves reality TV show. I definitely see it as a pure guilty pleasure and things like that. It's just I don't know. I never thought I'd get into like a whole ethical dilemma behind reality TV show, but here we are.
Yeah, yeah. Would could you have seen yourself on a show like Love is Blind?
That's a good question.
Like, if you were
Hell
single,
no.
would you have?
Hell no.
Okay, all
Hell
right.
no.
Me either.
No, no.
Me either. Me either. Because I like the amount of not only attention that you get during that process. Because I'm a very private person, so I like for my relationship to stay inside the relationship. Not for
Right.
everyone else to know about. But knowing that you have to put that out there for everyone to see, and the thought of alone of I actually like the concept of not seeing someone, like actually talking to them and getting to know them and all of the stuff prior to seeing them, right? I like that aspect of it, but it's just that it's publicized, right? Like, that's the part of it that would throw me. And of course, they're not doing this for love. Like, again, it's attention. Attention is one hell of a drug. It's the drug of the day. It's what everyone loves. So I get it, but yeah, nah. Putting all your stuff out there like that just wouldn't. It's never enticed me in any way, shape, or form. So,
And imagine all that stuff being out there and then it's just not even fucking true either. Like
oh yeah,
Yeah.
insane.
yeah,
All eyes
Insane.
on you.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, I'm
literally.
good
So
on
Matt, 100%, you would never sign yourself up for
Oh
Love is
hell
Blind.
no. Nah.
that.
Nah, we chilling. We chilling, big bro.
I fucking love it. I'm sorry. I feel like we forced Matt to sit through 20 minutes of just mental anguish. Like, and it's okay. We're gonna cleanse the palate. We're gonna move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But shout out to Love is Blind. I'm a fucking fiend. Like, I'm willing to admit how desperate I am for the next episode to drop in 2 days. Like, it is bad,
So
bro.
they're dropping it weekly now?
So it's not weekly for the whole show. They drop the entirety of like the initial part of the experience before they move in with each other all at
Ah,
once. And
okay.
then they drop at one time like two editions of once they move in together. And then following week they're dropping the end of the show, which is on Wednesday. So changing things up, right? Once again, going from the on-demand model to a hybrid, right? All these fucking work from home buzzwords are now applicable to the TV world. But
Yeah.
I actually think it's a very good way to build up even more hype, right? Because being able to binge something and talk about it is fun, but it's kind of like always at your own pace. But when
Mhm.
you binge something and now you gotta wait, like I feel like it's a very smart strategical approach to just get people raving about your show until the next episode drops. Even if that's not how the entirety of the show is releasing. So I think they nailed it by changing the way they're dropping these episodes. Um, and it has definitely made me more of a fiend to have reasons to talk shit with my girl for like an hour plus. I don't know if you guys ever used the Netflix party function. Have you guys ever heard of it?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
So it is the best thing ever, bro. Being able to like send emojis while all this insane shit is happening, bro. Like the amount of times all you see on the screen is just a mind blown emoji between me and my girl just fucking tapping it at the same time. All you see all on the screen is just the mind. Yeah, it's hilarious. But anyway, I'm done nerding out about this shit. Let's nerd out about a very interesting movie, right? To say the least. So Matt, is your time front and center? I'm throwing the proverbial ball to your court. I've set the tee for you, brother. You are now at bat. Why don't you tell the people what our feature presentation, Spaceman, is about?
So it's taking a shot like Steph Curry, except last night when he got blown up by the Celtics. All right. So uh I know Derrick would like that one. Yeah, but so we have Spaceman. starring Adam Sandler, and it revolves around a lonely astronaut who forms an unlikely bond with a mysterious creature. Um, yeah, this was something. Um,
Can I start?
thoughts?
Can I
Yeah.
start? I'm sorry. I just gotta say this because honestly, I will admit to you guys after I finished watching this movie, I'm like, you know what? Historically, I really loved Adam Sandler outside of the comedic lens, right? Being outside
Mhm.
of the comedic lens, love me some Adam Sandler and what he's able to deliver in that role. And honestly, I thought this film was very riveting in different moments, right? Different points of the film. Um, I no matter how hard I'm trying right now to like make this a turnaround moment, I can't even, bro. I'm so sorry. This was one of the worst movies like I've ever seen in my life. Like legitimately one of the worst movies I have ever seen. Um an anecdote that I think is important to note here because I think once I read this, like my mind was blown. So I have to share this with you guys first. So this film has been in post production for 3 years because each time it has been screened, it has been met with that exact face that you gave, Derrick. So this film has been in post for 3 years, and this is the fucking cut they ended up with. Like, bro, okay. Let me explain the premise a little deeper here, right? The first 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, this shit is cool. Like,
Yeah.
my guy's in space on a space mission, breaking ground in a different part of the universe that is yet to be explored. He's gonna come back with these particles. Like they set up what his mission is, the challenges he's facing mentally, physically. Like they set all that up in less than 20 minutes in a beautiful way.
Mhm.
And then the movie for an hour and 10 minutes after that was the same thing on loop. To me at least. I don't know how you guys felt about it. Um, but the introduction of the spider, Anus, right? Hanus. I hope that's how you say it. When I first saw the spider enter his body, right? And you see
Mhm.
that moment where it's like trickling around underneath his skin. That was a huge like, oh shit, this just got real like on another level, right? I didn't expect this to be some sort of encounter with alien life that is now going to interfere with this mission. And that just wasn't the case at all. This was just like an imaginary friend, right? And I love me a film. Don't get me wrong. I love me a movie that can take me in and out of reality, and I don't really know where I am. Like I love that. Um, this film did such a terrible job at trying to get you to understand when someone is in reality or outside of reality and the bounds of reality or when something is real or not.
Mm.
Like that's why I hate this movie. No matter what, no matter how you cut it, this movie is trash to me because multiple times throughout, I'm like, okay, now this is really happening. Like it has to be really happening, right? And it just fucking wasn't. And then the amount of times where I'm like, well, if this was happening just in your head, then why the fuck wouldn't you like do something about it? Right? And then something gets done about it, and it's just the most unsatisfactory answer to anything. So I was on board. First 20 minutes, this shit was cool to me. I'm like, this is a very refreshing movie. I can't remember an experience like this. There's been a lot of space movies, right? But not one where you're kind of dealing with the man in the mirror, right? And he's figuring these things out as we are. Um, but from there, just execution wise, this movie lost me in a way that I can't even sit here and compliment the cinematography, which was very beautiful. I can't even sit here and compliment all these other things because this was legitimately an hour and 10 plus of me watching a director try to like hit home a point that they were just shaking around over and over again and throwing it out onto the table. And you see the dice are rigged. You see they're landing on double six each time. And yet we're still coming back to this. Like this shit, I don't understand how they for 3 years edited this shit down and it was still this long. because an hour and 10 plus of existential talk with the spider that has a very strange accent is not going to be a driving force to any movie, no matter how good the fucking CGI looks. Holy shit, this is fucking bad. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't bite too much meat off the bone.
No,
This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
I mean, to be totally honest with you, like, there's really not much to discuss with this film. Um, I revealed to you guys that I fell asleep for 15 to 20 minutes, and I've fallen asleep. This is the second movie I've ever fallen asleep to. The first movie was Captain Marvel, and now this is officially the second. Um, the film is just so endlessly repetitive. Like, there are sequences, particularly in the second act, where Hannes, who is real by the way, I did look up to see if they were trying to go the whole imaginary route. The director and the book this is based off of do in fact confirm that Hannes is a real creature.
This is
For the
based off a
record,
book.
it is based off a book. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when they find out it's real, it makes even less sense, right? Continue, man.
Yeah, I did.
Right.
I did not
Yeah.
know this was be real. Wow. Okay.
And so many sequences of Hannes sort of entering what does this do? I forget. I want to say honestly, I want to say Adam Sandler entering Adam's mind and picking apart different memories, asking, "Why didn't you love her more? Are you doing this? What happened? Are you still doing this?" And that loop was just repeating, and it's like, what are you trying? Like, I understand what you're attempting to communicate. The fact that Adam Sandler obviously has regrets over losing his wife. They have this estranged relationship, but the film just is so bare bones in its execution, and we rarely see the wife in the film. There are a couple of um cuts back to Earth where we see her, you know, essentially leaving Adam. We see her trying to figure out whether or not it's the best decision for her, and obviously those back in the Space Force reach out to her to sort of see whether or not, um, she would consider at least talking with him just to make sure his mental state is still in place. But I just, I just did not buy their chemistry, honestly, and the sequences with them, and these sort of flashbacks were so generic and so uninspired that I honestly didn't care. Like, the whole premise is meant to be this sort of marriage mediation thing. And it's just like, I don't I don't know, you know? Um it like I'm at a loss for words. Like, I honestly just don't know how to like articulate or like articulate and stuff. But really, I guess the last thing I'll say is just that this film just doesn't flesh out its main themes properly. It's very surface level, and while there are decent moments in the second half of the film, the fact that it took all the way until not even the second half, but like the late second half, for me to start feeling like somewhat emotion because Adam was actually delivering a pretty solid performance, I would say, even though he had a sort of weird Czechoslovakian accent at times. I had no idea why he did that when he could have just spoken a normal Adam Sandler voice. But yeah, this was just, I think, a huge disappointment to me because I was definitely looking forward to seeing Adam take on another dramatic role. I thought the premise of the film could have really lent itself to being this very deep introspective look at marriage, essentialism, and it was not that at all. And it actually just reminded me of a film that we watched there. And I'm not sure, Chris, if you watched this before either, but a film called 9 Days,
Oh,
like where
yeah.
like that movie was longer. That's a 2 hour long movie, and it's a slow burn 2 hour long movie, and that plot progressed more than this film. There's an hour and 47 minutes. Like it's it's just it's rough. It's a very rough film. Yeah,
I agree with you on that. But I will say one of the things that I was hoping one of you guys would bring up. How did this spider get onto the ship?
Probably the way he came
Like,
out, I guess.
how did he get
how
out?
Yeah.
I'm
how does the
like,
spider change in size every time it's on
I
the screen? Like, there's so many.
there's something. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I thought from a cinematic perspective, because we're not gonna be able to do our breakdown,
Yeah.
story, acting, all that stuff. This is irrelevant.
This
I
ain't even a
think
movie we're reviewing
it's
here.
not. It's not. It's not. It's this. But I think cinematically it was beautiful. I actually
Right.
thought that what we saw visually, the visual effects and all that, it was amazing. It was very well done. Um, however, I don't. When you compare this, because this is a movie that you would have to put into the same category as Castaway or I Am Legend, right? Where you're watching a one primary character in a space or an environment where they are alone, and that's who you're going with main. The supporting character is someone that they are is an inanimate object, or it's a dog. It's just something like it's just a companion, but
Mm.
this I'm thinking this is going to be something like, oh, this is just an imaginary thing. Until you said that earlier, Matt, I had no clue this is supposed to be a real thing. I thought this was supposed to be imaginary.
Like a
So
metaphor for
yeah,
his loneliness and
his
yeah.
loneliness and introspection and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um,
Ruins
um,
it.
it
Ruins it
ruins
for
it.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Because when you put this movie into the category of those films and you compare it to those type of movies, what those movies were able to do were to tell a story from the main character's perspective and the supporting character, whether it was a volleyball or a dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were able to tell the perspective of the story from their perspective as well, right? While this told the perspective of a spider, which honestly it was a spider, but like an octopus at the same time, I something about that I
A
didn't get.
Spoctopus with
A
the
spice
wiseness of a
of an
human celestial
owl,
being that's been
like,
around for
I
6 trillion years. Like,
I don't get it. Nothing about that makes sense. I put this on because Mariah was going to watch this movie with me. We were sitting in the room watching it, and I'm like, I'm sitting, I'm like, when is it gonna get to the point? Like, when are we gonna get to something that's tangible? Because like you, Chris, I was sitting there first 20 minutes. I was like, okay, they're getting onto something. Once I
Yeah.
saw the spider going through, I said, okay, that's crazy. But get it. This man's been in space by himself for 6 months to a year, right? Like, I get it. You're gonna start seeing things, you're gonna start feeling some whatever. But when the spider actually showed up and was talking to him, that's when they lost it. They completely lost me
Yeah.
because I didn't think that they were going to go that route. I didn't know what to expect with this movie. Like you guys know, I don't watch trailers, so I didn't know what the overall theme of the movie was. I kind of just figured, okay, he's gonna get to some planet. He's gonna be in some dire strait or whatever. And we'll get something resolved, and it'll be a cool little story. I honestly I did not. You could not have. I would not have predicted this at all. You could have asked me how many times I could have, like, the outcome of this movie would have been. I would never have predicted that. You know, let alone actually going out of the ship for this spider to do what? To do what? You literally put your life on the line for a spider that you just met. Like, none of this makes sense.
Yeah. I
None of
also
this makes sense.
I would also venture to say that this is probably the worst ending of the year. Like truthfully, honestly. Now, there were obviously like two times the person back at control mentioned how the South Koreans were on them.
Yeah.
So I thought that meant that the South Koreans were um advancing their development of another launch to that same cluster. So when I thought
Oh,
that I thought that meant like, oh, like, well, we have to hurry out this mission because we're basically in competition with South Korea. I did not mean they literally meant that that a South Korean vessel was following him to this cluster.
yeah.
I did not predict it at all.
Yeah.
And that
I
begs the
got that.
question. They must have launched at the same time.
Around the same time.
So it's like, how did you arrive at the same location that close to each other? And then number two, the whole so we're gonna jump forward to the ending. So obviously he ends up getting taken into the cluster itself, obviously, where like the beginning of time is. That was single-handedly one of the worst scenes that probably one of the worst visual scenes I've ever seen, because the visual effects in that particular sequence were, and no, like I said, no disrespect to the artists. I understand that, you know, they put in hours of work. I'm not blaming them, because obviously there's a good chance that there's a reason why this went through 3 years, because they were probably looking to iron out those particular details, especially that sequence, because it's not a sequence that's easy to do within any period of time. But the visuals were awful in that moment, and it became way too fantastical, like way too fantastical. And then this sort of vessel coming in and managing to locate him and saving him, when the film could have just ended 10 minutes earlier, of him, sort of like passively piecing away and just accepting the fact that he's sort of somewhat reconciled with his wife, or at the very least was, you know, able to connect to her and say, look, I apologize for not taking your feelings into account, for ever asking you what we should be doing with our lives. I put myself before our marriage. You know what I mean? But then the movie goes on for another 10 minutes, and they basically imply that they're going to get back together. For But there wasn't like a substantial build up to that. It was just one conversation, and that was it. Like, and that's based on all the context we've been given, right? Of where they've been estranged for quite a long while. Like their marriage was on was at their breaking point. Was at its
So,
breaking point.
real quick,
You know what I mean?
I didn't get that. I thought that the breaking point happened in the midst of this journey. Like that's the sense I got. So am I
Mm-mm.
tweaking about this? I thought
It took
in the
place
midst of this
before he.
journey she realized that this wasn't for her anymore. So
Well, it's based off of the
Yeah.
flashback. So you remember the flashbacks, how they were like consistently arguing with each other. It was just
Yeah.
him going on this journey was the catalyst for him to officially leave him, if
Yes.
that makes sense. Because there were
makes
days
sense.
leading
However,
up to him breaking contact and stuff. But sorry, Derek, go ahead.
yeah, no, I agree with that. And the worst part about it is, if a woman is willing to leave you while you're in space, your life is on the line. If she's willing to leave you during that moment before you even hit midway point of your journey to then make your return, why would you want to get back with her? He he knew she was leaving. That's another thing. Like he already knew that this was pretty much it for them. And he still wanted to get back. I'm telling you right now, if I went out into space and I go out for a year, I know for a fact Mariah will be perfectly fine and wait for me. I know that for a fact. The fact that he was out there for he was only gone for 6 months.
Yeah.
bro, is space the new jail? Question mark.
I,
Must be.
I, bro, that was wild. That was wild. There is nothing about this movie that had any redeeming qualities
Thank you.
Yeah.
outside
Well,
of the fact that the cinematography was beautiful. I that's the only thing I could see.
Yeah.
I go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to say, I think the score was quite good. The actual score for the film was pretty good, in my opinion.
I didn't even pay attention to it.
I
That
feel
sort
like
of
you
helped
can't
me.
I feel like you can't really fuck that up. Like at this
Y-
point.
y-
Like you done
yeah,
Well,
fucked
you'd be
up
surprised.
everything.
You can take a very like generic approach to it. I thought it was
Yeah,
pretty
that's
good.
true.
It definitely helped, like, and it
It was very
enhanced
layered,
it
very
enhanced
ominous.
it enhanced the
Yeah.
emotion. It definitely enhanced the emotion of some key scenes. In the second and third act specifically. I do want to give due praise there because I felt like the execution was there.
Can I talk about some realistic inconsistencies real quick before we move on?
Please do.
No,
Please do.
yes,
The
sure there were.
fucking once again and this is why I keyed in on this, like the idea of never really knowing in this film what is real or not. The decontamination scene where they're like, oh yeah, like at this point I guess he's in fear of this spider, right? Because he's like, we got to decontaminate the ship, like there's something going on here. Bro, this motherfucker, after in the midst of the decontamination, just hops right back in the suit, bro. He ain't washes, he ain't do a little body wash, nothing. There was no disinfectant wipes, nothing. He just dives right back in the suit. So was this even a decontamination, or was you just spraying the room for COVID? Like when like we just spraying it for the sake of spraying it. That shit didn't make no sense to me. And then the other one, all right. So we are supposed to believe that this man is near, what was it? Jupiter? Was it Saturn or Jupiter?
Jupiter.
Okay. Some 500 plus miles away, right? These motherfuckers was on the phone. Like it was Boost Mobile, like
Thank you.
immediately responding to each
Thank
other
you.
as if there's no delay. There's no need for you to wait to get my message because we just right here, like we connected quantumly across the universe. We are connected. Meanwhile, this is the furthest any man has ever traveled. Another reason that made me feel like, what the fuck is real? Like this can't be real. This got to be a figment of his imagination. Come to find out, it is very fucking real. When they sent Peter into the Lamaze class, right? Like another moment that I'm like, oh, so this is real. And it like, bro, I'm never like this movie. Once again, like I've seen some movies fall apart at the end. This movie didn't have a foundation to fall apart from. This movie was the same thing being force fed to you, which is a really interesting theme, right? Of how work can
Self-contemplation.
consume you, how you can end up in a position in your marriage where you don't even realize you've become the reason for this rift, right? Regardless of whether or not it's tied to your ambition or whatever, like you have become the separation that you hate in your relationship. Like that's a very dynamic story that can be told. But the way it was told was literally space therapy with a fucking spider that in one scene was no bigger than 2 centimeters. In another scene is half the size of the fucking ship. No, thank you, bro. Like I don't listen. This is the worst movie we've ever watched on the show. Like I didn't think we could get quite worse than Rebel Moon and a couple of other movies that we watched. That I was like, damn, man, that shit sucked. Like, I legitimately, I don't bitch a lot. I feel like I wish I had these 2 hours back. Like real shit. This was not worth it for me. And I agree with you as far as Sandler's performance. I thought what they did to him cosmetically too to make him age in space was beautiful. Like I think they did a really good job with all of the actual physical machinations of what needed to happen, but the story itself was just absolutely fucking trash. And then the payoff, like you said, okay, this is the last thing I'm gonna say about this scene because you already talked about it, Matt. But that ending sequence with the beginning, right? Hanu's always talking about the fucking beginning and how you're gonna be at the beginning with me now because I've been here already. I thought the idea of like, okay, maybe these were the first particles that created this. I thought that was really cool, right? They chose to make this. If you gave Chat GPT the task, if you wrote in Chat GPT, right, generate a video of a Jimmy Neutron brain blast in 2024, like that's what that fucking scene was. It was the brain blast moment of this movie. And color wise, you could say it's nice, but what it accomplished, the memories it showed, in that like there was no thread as far as like an actual message from the universe. There was no thread. It was just colors and shapes, the imaginary. Shout out to Mac Miller, rest in peace. This movie was fucking trash. Like the
Yeah.
worst, one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I'm not confident in saying the worst, but definitely the worst we've ever watched for realish. I'm done.
Yeah. No, you're fine, bro. And I think also this is probably going to make things even worse. So I was actually incorrect. The director said, end quote, it is up to the audience's interpretation on whether or not Hannes is real or not. So I'm not sure that sort of makes the viewing experience any more digestible, shall we
No,
say. But
no.
I think that makes it even worse, the fact that there is no definitive answer. Um I think really conclusively, um
Real quick, Matt,
yeah, I
my fucking film teacher used to tell me that all the time. He would ask me a question, bro. He'll ask me a question that pertained to my script. And the first thing I'll think is exactly what you just said, Matt. There's not an answer. Like I don't really have an answer to that question. And you know what his answer was? There needs to be a fucking answer. Because if
Yeah.
there's an answer to that question, then there is some depth to the story here, right? There is something to be unraveled by the story. There was
yeah,
motherfuckers didn't have the answers, Sway, and they didn't even have the questions. Like
yeah.
you
I,
you need if someone asks you a question about a part of the story, regardless of how insignificant it is, if it appears on that fucking script, you need to be able to have an answer for it. You need to be able to have an answer as to why it's there. And there was just so much here that it just felt like someone trying to teach AI how to explain emotions. Like that's literally what this film felt like. I did it
yeah.
again, Matt. I'm sorry I cut you.
No, 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 you're fine. I think yeah, because the spider's dialogue was just incredibly redundant and was again most of the dialogue was simply asking questions that they're looking into Jacob's mind. If you notice, I'm saying the same thing. There's literally like nothing. Like, here's what I will say: the the concept of the film, I think would have just been better off in a short film, a
Mhm,
15-30 minute short film
mhm,
that explores the complexity of marriage, that explores our place in not only the world but the universe as a whole,
mhm.
that is meant to be a self-reflective journey of someone trying to become a better version of themselves. Those three ideas can easily be communicated in a 15 to 30 minute short film. And I honestly think this premise alone should have been that. Because you can see the potential within the first 20 minutes and how they sort of build up into obviously Jacob going on this mission, sort of what he's leaving behind at home, even elements of the ending, like parts of the ending in terms of sort of Jacob coming to this sort of like realization or understanding of him being the main cause for their rift, for their split. Um, so the elements are there. It's just again, no, I said this before, like it honestly just felt like a student who submitted an essay with an intro and a conclusion, but just forgot all the body paragraphs. You know what I mean? Like like I would venture to say this is like, easily this year is the worst second act I have seen because it was a drag. And this is an hour and 47-minute movie. I watched Dune Part 2, which is 2 hours and 47 minutes. And that movie did not drag once. That movie did not drag once. It's an hour longer. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, like I said, Adam Sandler, you could definitely tell the actors were committed. There was nobody who
Oh
gave
yeah.
a bad performance, but the material wasn't there for them to, like help bring them to that next level. Um, and yeah, I really my recommendation for you all, Doom Part 2 is out in theaters right now. Just finished grossing $178 million at the global box office, which is a huge success. Definitely watch that if you want to see a cinematic masterpiece. And if you don't, Spaceman is here. Um, so yeah, how
I
about you, Derek?
I I will say this though. I think because I stopped this movie halfway through to watch Uncut Gems with Mariah. I will say I love the transition that Sandler is taking in his career because one of the things that I would like to see more of would be comedians in drama roles because I think when you're able to go to that extreme with the comedy, you should be able to swing to other extreme with the drama, thrillers, whatever. We've seen him in Punch Drunk Love. We've seen him in Uncut Gems. See him in this movie. I think uh, 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 there is something to be said when a comedian can do that. Jim Carrey did that with 21. Not sure if y'all ever saw that film. That was spectacular. I think there are a lot of good opportunities, and I would like to see that more. I'm not sure who, like, what new comedian I would love to see do that, but I think there's complexities in comedy, so being able to take the complexities of drama, um, it seems like a match made in heaven, to be completely honest. So that was great. I loved it. Like Uncut Gems, I've seen it already. Like that was a phenomenal
Um,
movie. So
Amazing movie.
yeah. So I just this movie just there's nothing else to say about it. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. I wouldn't have even finished the movie if we didn't have to do this recording. I would have just
Same.
left it where I was. I think I got like 45 minutes in,
I was
and
about
I
to
was
say
like,
36
yeah,
minutes. Yeah.
Which says a
I'm
lot.
good.
Which
Yeah,
says a
I'm
lot.
good. Yeah.
Like it's not even an hour, and you
Yeah.
guys were struggling. So no,
Yeah.
I was too. Like I said, I admittedly fell asleep for 15 to 20 minutes. But the worst part is that I don't feel like I missed anything.
No, you
Like
didn't.
there isn't, you know what I mean? Like I
You did not.
so um yeah.
Star ratings. It's that time. It's that
Yes,
time.
sir.
My favorite part of the show, especially when we're amongst a train derailment, like this show has been. Holy fuck! Um, I'm gonna give it a half a star. That's all you're gonna get out of me, and that's only for the visual eye candy, and the score. Shout out to Matt. That's it. That's this ain't a movie. This is a storyboard. Go ahead, Derek.
I can't disagree with you on that one. Half star. And that's because Adam Sandler, like he does a great job of acting in this movie. Cinematography is good. Visual effects, really nice. But when you get sucked into a black hole and then you bounce out on the other side to then get thrown in front of the South Korean ship, I don't know what the point of that whole thing was. So I'm good. Welcome home.
Oh
How many
man.
stars you got, Matt?
Yeah, well I think Denis Villeneuve directed the cinematic masterpiece, and I think proves to be a worthy successor to Doom Part One. I feel that Greg Fraser it has solidified himself as one of the best, if not the best, cinematographer of all time. And the film brilliantly captures the concept of false prophecies, and also just the nature of someone becoming the worst version of himself, particularly when he is doomed to be a genocidal maniac. Really, my main grievance with the film is that the third act could have benefited from being a bit longer. I do feel that some deaths involving characters were a bit anticlimactic, but if you are looking for a worthy blockbuster that deserves all the praises, getting all the success it is getting, Due Part 2 is again in theaters as of now. Oh shit, sorry, that was the wrong movie. Yeah, Spaceman, yeah, it's probably a one. Um,
Wow, generous.
Probably one, probably one and a half, maybe two. Um, Score is decent. Um, Yeah, go see Doom Part 2. That's that's the message of the day.
Hey, between reality TV and this feature presentation, I don't know if Matt's gonna be here next week. Like he might just be tired of our shit at this point.
You know what? I'm the one who again, this sort of issue my apology because I did recommend. I was the one who recommended Spaceman, so if anything, I should be the one issuing apologies to you. Um, really.
It's all
So
good. We're
you
not
know,
gonna look. That's the one thing about this show. We're not gonna hit every movie to be
yeah.
a generational, once in a generational type of film. The good way. This is once in a generational type of film in the bad way. This was pretty bad.
Yeah. But we done put a bow on it. We done kicked it through the grave, right? Like there's nothing left to kick at this point. Shout out to everyone involved. I think it's gonna do relatively well given the way it dropped on Netflix and it looks nice, right? In the preview window, it's at number 1 right now in movies on Netflix, which is a great place to be on Netflix. So I'm pretty
But
sure
we
it's
don't
gonna
have those
do all right.
numbers. That
Yeah,
that's
we're
the
never
that's
gonna
the
get those numbers,
that's
but
the one thing that annoys me about Netflix and streaming in general. You can say that all you want.
yeah.
That doesn't mean anything to me.
Maybe we get a Hannes prequel.
I pray to God we
Oh
don't.
my god.
If we
Oh my
do, I'm
god.
not watching it, and I'm not. I don't want to see anything. I will follow this director to see what not to watch.
Yeah, I agree. And I think
Damn.
that sums up how we felt about this movie. I'm sorry we even brought this to you guys, but most importantly, next time we're gonna have a whole bunch awesome stuff to talk about. And we haven't decided on what film we're gonna go with, but there's no doubt it's gonna be better than this one. So we will see you guys on the next reel. God damn it! And until then, just folks, please remember for me, if you're gonna work out in outer space, make sure it makes sense because if you're on a treadmill in zero gravity, there's gonna be no effect to your joints or limbs. And with that, we'll catch you next time. Peace.